Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jumoke. So I've been getting this question quite a lot from prospects and clients as well as contacts as to whether or not now is a good time to invest in the property market. An additional question is around whether or not you should rent or buy. So in this video, I will tackle the first question, which is around whether or not it is a good time to invest in the real estate or property market. In my opinion and experience, most times are good times to invest in the property market. There are three specific advantages I'll talk about when it comes to property. As you know, we are in quite a high interest rate environment, and I say that relative to recent history. So over the past 10 to 15 years, interest rates are the highest they've been in quite a while. And of course, this was all on the back of the stimulus packages that were administered by several nations over the pandemic period to really help the economy avoid a recession. And recent data on the UK has shown a drop in house prices. Banks like Halifax and Lloyd's actually believe that we will see an 8% decline in house prices over 2023. Now, of course, that is welcome news to new buyers or first-time buyers in the UK, or those who perhaps want to buy additional investment properties or residential properties. As I said before, we are in a high interest rate environment, which means that if you're taking out a mortgage, you're paying mortgages at higher rates. That's not necessarily a bad thing on a net basis, and I'll explain why. One of the advantages of real estate is the income yield you get from your asset, especially if the asset is purely a commercial property or buy-to-let property. Buy-to-let means that you're buying that to rent it out, so buy-to-let out. Buy-to-let properties can be very, very helpful in terms of auxiliary or residual income or passive income, because it means that your asset is working overtime for you. So for as long as you own the asset and you are renting it out or letting it out, you get that nice rental yield. The second great thing about the property market and investing in real estate assets is that you do get that uplift in terms of capital appreciation. So it means that the asset in itself will increase in value over time, and so your return on investment can be quite healthy when you come to sell the property in the future. Now, the third thing about property, which I think is great, is that it actually acts as an inflation hedge. So you might think, well, why is property a hedge for inflation when you have a depression in pricing, but you have a very high interest rate environment, as we've seen in recent times? Well, the thing with property is that your rental income actually fluctuates alongside or in line with inflation. So typically, when you get a rise in inflation, the rental yields or your rent levels actually increase as well. So essentially, because the increase in your rental yields is in line with inflation, your real purchasing power or the real value of your income stays the same over time or is protected against inflation. Another point to add is that in certain countries, there are tax advantages to own in real estate, and it really depends on the kind of assets you buy. Now, going back to the point around whether or not now is a great time to buy property, I think it is. And the reason is that, number one, you're getting that discount in terms of pricing because house prices are actually declining. The second reason is that if you benchmark your rental yield in a strategically clever way, i.e., if your yields or your rental income is higher than the rates you pay in terms of your perhaps interest only or capital and interest repayments, then on a net basis, you're still making a positive return. Essentially, you're still getting cash inflow. So it really does depend on how you peg your rental rates. And remembering that inflation won't always be at this high level at its peak is noteworthy, because it means that if you have a variable interest rates, for example, and not a fixed interest rate, it means that over time, the interest that you pay on your mortgage will most likely decline as interest rates decline. So it means that you can get an even greater margin in terms of your rental yields. Now, one thing I will highlight about property is that it really depends on what sort of asset or what sort of property you buy. If you buy a leasehold property, which means that the lease actually is being rented by you and the freehold belongs to perhaps the owners of the land or the developers of the complex or the building, then you have to pay lease payments annually. And these operating expenses are things that you want to keep in mind as you set the levels of your rents for tenants. On the flip side of that, if you were to purchase a freehold property, that essentially means that you own the lease and you don't have to make those annual lease payments. And that can really go a long way in reducing your operating expenses. And even with this high interest rate environment that we're in, in, there still remains a very, very significant interest in property. Majority of my clients, if not all of my clients, are real estate holders or real estate investors, and they really love the whole brick and mortar. They love that they can actually see where they've invested their funds. If you're lucky enough to build a portfolio that has really high quality assets and you get some really decent rental income from that, that can serve to replace your 9 to 5 income and essentially help you become financially free. So real estate is a really, really interesting asset class to think about when it comes to building your wealth over time. A lot of investors and a lot of wealthy people actually made their money from the real estate market. And if you think about it, there will always be need for housing. So not everyone is able to buy real estate or able to purchase their properties, unfortunately, which also means that there will be a demand for rental properties. And this is where you come in as an investor. So as long as we have a healthy and growing population, there will always be demand for real estate. And it certainly remains a very interesting asset class for high net worth individuals as well as institutions. So it's never too early or too late to start your journey in terms of becoming a property owner. I hope this video was helpful and it gave you a little bit of insight as to why you should think about investing in real estate. If it was, don't forget to leave a like. Click that notification bell as well so you don't miss any of my new videos. Until next time, look after yourselves. Bye for now.